So this is ByAnnie's Close at Hand. As you can see, it has a nice compact size. It's easy to put inside a purse or a backpack. It's got a nice grab handle. There is a pocket here that has soft and stable on each side, so this is a great spot for a small ice pack if you need to carry anything that has to be kept cool. Inside, you've got a full height slip pocket, and then you've got a gathered pocket here that can expand to hold slightly larger items. You've got another mesh pocket here. You've got a slip pocket back here, and then 3 mesh slip pockets off to the side, and 3 elastic loops in the center. It's a nice spot for an ID on the back, and it all zips up into a nice compact size. Hi, this is Randy of Randy's Roost and the ByAnnie Bag Makers group on Facebook. And today I'm going to be walking you through how to make Close at Hand, which is an older ByAnnie pattern. I think it came out in 2015. This was before Annie started making those really super clear, super easy to understand instructions that she's known for today. And so I'm going to just try to provide a little clarity on that pattern. And there are also no add-on videos for this, so I thought this would be helpful. So I'm not going to be providing any measurements from the pattern. You will need to purchase the pattern to follow along with this tutorial. This pattern is now out of print, but you can still find it at a lot of local quilt shops, either in person or online. So this is a handy little case. It was originally designed to store medical supplies, particularly for diabetic folks. It's got a lot of nice handy little pockets and loops inside for carrying all sorts of things. There's a good spot for an ice pack if you're carrying any medications that require refrigeration. So that's a really nice feature. It makes a great small first aid kit, which is what I use mine for. I'm sure it has lots of other uses too. Anytime you want to store little things and would like to keep them a little more organized, this is great for that. So this looks like it has a lot of pieces and parts, but we're going to take it very slow and just go through the instructions one at a time. Another great thing about this project is it doesn't have any hardware, so it keeps the cost of making this down a little bit. I'm going to be working with Tula Pink fabric today. I've got Tiny Beasts, True Colors, and Tiny Stripes. And I've got a ByAnnie zipper in Papaya. And I've got ByAnnie fold-over elastic and mesh in Dandelion. And I have glitter vinyl from So Hungry Hippie. You'll also need some small pieces of soft and stable. I got all these pieces from my scraps, so this is a good way to use up your soft and stable scraps. And we've also got a little bit of fusible interfacing. This is SF101 Shape Flex. On the ByAnnie website, this is SUP179. This project doesn't involve any quilting, so all you need to do before you start this tutorial with me is cut out all your pieces and always make a copy of those labels in the back of the pattern and use it to keep track of all your pieces and parts. Okay, so the first page of the pattern gives you some general information. You should read through that before you start working. It gives you a lot of good tips for working with the different materials like mesh and vinyl. It gives you some binding information. And then on page 2, you'll find your cutting list. And then we're going to start working on page 3 where it says assemble the case. So we're going to start off by doing some fusing of the interfacings. Okay, we have 3 pieces that need to be interfaced. For pockets A and B, the interfacing is the same size as the fabric, so you're just going to align all the edges. For the handle, the interfacing is the same height as the fabric, but it's a little bit less wide, so you're going to have about a ½ inch of fabric peeking out on each side of the interfacing. So 2 important things about interfacing, and I know the first tip sounds really silly, but I'd be lying if I said I never accidentally fused the interfacing to the front of the fabric. So always be sure you are fusing it to the wrong side of your fabric, and make sure your iron is not too hot or too cool. So it's a good idea to just check your iron temperature on a small scrap of fabric and interfacing. If you have the iron too hot, the interfacing will get all wavy and it'll not look smooth on your project. And if it's too cool, the interfacing won't fuse. Okay, so those 3 are fused. And you can set pockets A and B aside for now, and we're going to work on the handle. Okay, so the first thing we need to do for the handle is fold it lengthwise, and we're going to press it lightly to mark the center. Okay, now we need to open this up, and we're going to bring each of these raw edges to match that center line. So you're going to fold this part up and press it, and fold this part down and press it. Okay, next step I don't think is spelled out very clearly in the pattern, but you need to refold it on that original fold line that we made. So you're going to bring the whole thing together like that and press it one more time. And then we're going to top stitch all around all four sides, about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Okay, once it's top stitched, you can put the label back on and set the handle aside. Okay, next we're going to prepare pocket A. So you're going to take pocket A and turn it over so you're looking at the wrong side, and then we're going to fold it in half this way. Okay, make sure the short ends are matched up really nicely, and then we're going to top stitch right along the fold. Okay, so now that folded edge where you top stitched is now considered the top of this pocket. The dimensions on this one are a little confusing. So to remind myself that that's the top, I just put the tag at the top. Okay, next we have pocket B. Pocket B, we're going to turn it over to the wrong side, and we're going to fold it in half this way. Okay, this time we're going to top stitch along the long folded edge, and then again we're going to turn it because this pocket is going to go this way. So we're going to stick the label on up there. Okay, so you've got the top stitching going along the left side. And then you can set that aside. And now we're going to work with the mesh and fold over elastic. Okay, so pocket C has 3 pieces. You've got a piece of mesh, a piece of elastic, and a piece of binding fabric. So you'll notice right away that, well, first I should point out we're going to be binding the top and the bottom edges of this pocket. So the 2 long edges. And you'll notice that the elastic is a little bit shorter than the side of the pocket that we're going to be binding. So as we attach the elastic, we're going to stretch a little bit, and it's going to gather the mesh pocket. Okay, so the elastic has a shiny side and a not shiny side. It does not matter which side is showing. It doesn't affect how it works. It's just your personal preference. So whichever side you want showing on your bag, you're going to put that side down. Okay, I can't decide. I think I want it to be shiny. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take the center. No, actually I'm not going to start with the center because we're gathering. Sorry about that. So I'm going to match up the elastic with that fold in the middle, and I'm going to fold the elastic over so its 2 edges meet at the bottom. And then I'm going to use a wonder clip just to hold that in place. Okay, now I'm going to take this to my machine and I'm going to start sewing along the bottom edge of the elastic with the top stitch length. And I'm going to go slow, and as I sew, I'm going to stretch the elastic. Okay, I'm still going to make sure that its raw edges are meeting at the bottom. Okay, so once we have the pocket gathered, you can see that the bottom of the pocket now looks wider than the top. So what we're going to do to fix that is we're going to baste along the bottom of the pocket while sewing a couple of little pleats. Okay, so you're just going to baste right along the bottom of the pocket. And as you do that, the goal is to get the bottom of the pocket to be the same width as the top. Okay, the last thing we need to do to finish off this pocket is use the pocket C binding to bind the bottom. So to do that, we're going to fold the binding in half the long way, match up its long raw edges, and then we're going to line this up with the bottom edge of the pocket and sew it down with an accurate 1/4 inch seam. Okay, and now we're going to just finger press the binding up away from the pocket, and now we're going to bring the binding around to cover up this raw edge, and ideally you want no binding peeking through, so you want this folded edge to just barely cover your line of stitching that we just did. So you shouldn't see the back of the binding from the front, and you shouldn't see the front of the binding from the back. So just be careful that it's all aligned. And then you're going to top stitch right along the folded edge of the binding. Okay, and ideally you want your stitching to fall out in the same place on the front and back of the binding, but don't get too upset if it doesn't happen. Especially for this one, it's going to be inside a pocket. And then pocket C is done. You can put the label back on and set that aside. Okay, for pockets D and E, for each one you're going to bind the top edge only. For these, the binding, the elastic rather, is the same width as the pocket. So you don't need to do any gathering. It's just simply applying the binding, and then the bottom edge is going to be left raw because as we assemble the bag, the bottom edges of these two pockets will be hidden. Okay, next we're going to work on pocket F. This is the zipper pocket that goes on the outside of the front of the case. So this part has 5 pieces. So you've got a piece of main fabric, a piece of lining fabric, a piece of soft and stable, outer pocket F binding, and a zipper. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is attach the main fabric to the soft and stable. Okay, so I have my soft and stable, and I'm going to take the lining fabric and center it on here. I like to give that a press. I think it helps the fabric sort of stick to the soft and stable. Even though it's not a fusible interfacing, I find that pressing it on the soft and stable helps it sort of make use of that grippy feature of the soft and stable. And then we're going to stitch all around the fabric about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric. I find it easier to do that with a walking foot. Okay, once you have that sewn down, you're going to trim the soft and stable so it's even with all 4 edges of the fabric. Okay, now we're going to turn this piece over, and we're going to attach the outer pocket F lining to the back. Okay, so we're going to carefully align all 4 sides, and we're going to stitch this down again about 1/8 of an inch from the edges. Be careful to keep this piece smooth as you stitch. Again, a walking foot is the easiest way to do that. Okay, so once we have the lining fabric attached, now we need to attach a zipper to that top short edge. So we're going to take a zipper and close it, and we want the zipper pull on the left. And then we're going to put this zipper face down on top of the fabric, and you want about the same amount of zipper tape extending on each side. And I also suggest having the zipper tape extend above the top of the pocket by about 1/8 of an inch. And that's going to help us use the zipper tape to hide the raw edges on the back. Okay, so now we're going to sew along this edge right here with a generous 1/4 inch seam. Okay, now we need to look at the back of the pocket, and we're going to finger press the zipper tape down and use it to cover this raw edge. So we're just going to flatten the zipper tape just like that, and then we need to sew along this bottom edge of the zipper as close as we can get to the bottom edge of the zipper. And your bobbin thread is going to be creating top stitching on the front of your pocket. We're just going to top stitch that down. And once that zipper is sewn down, the last thing we need to do for this pocket is bind the top edge of the zipper. So we're going to take the outer pocket F binding and fold it in half the long way with the right side out. And we're going to align that long raw edge with the back of the zipper. We're going to align it with the top edge of the zipper tape. And we're going to align the short edges of the binding with the sides of the pocket. And then we'll sew along right here with a accurate 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so outer pocket F is done, and we're going to stick the tag back on and set it aside. Okay, so all of our components are ready, and in the next video we will start putting things together.